Greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the Week 4 running back start or sits. I'm going to basically be going over my 4 starts and 4 sits at the running back position for Week 4 of the regular season. I'm also going to be going over my rankings for the top 34 running backs for Week 4. Timestamps will be below, but before we start, I want to thank everybody who has subscribed to my YouTube channel. For those of you who send out much love and support, I appreciate it. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here, so I'm going to keep pumping out content as much as I possibly can. And again, I appreciate all the support. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, so let's begin with my 4 starts of the week. As you can see on the screen, we have 2 starts of the week. Number 1, James White, and number 2, David Johnson. Now, let's talk about James White first. A guy who is, for the last 3 weeks, been extremely consistent when it comes to fantasy football, especially when it comes to the perspective of half point and full point PPR. I think James White has outdone all of the other running backs in the Patriots offense. And to be honest, he's outdone everyone within that Patriots offense. We all know the struggles that the Patriots offense have been facing as of late. So I think David Johnson, being that little hope of light, has produced, has been relevant, and continues to be the lead back when it comes to producing fantasy points out of that backfield. A quick stat I wanted to read out. Over the last 3 weeks, James White has hauled in over, 17? That's 20 targets in the last 3 weeks. This past week wasn't really used within the offense much, but I think as the Patriots begin to kind of find their footing, Rex Burkhead is hurt with a neck injury. I don't know if he's going to play this week. And Sony Michel looked terrible in the passing game. I think James White is going to be used more often this week against the Miami Dolphins defense. And I think James White has to be a start for Week 4 of the regular season. Many of you may be struggling with injuries yourself. Bye weeks for the Redskins and the Carolina Panthers, both of which have really good running backs. Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, Christian McCaffrey. Guys that are going to start week in and week out, but unfortunately you don't have them this week. If you have James White sitting on your bench, and even if you don't have him sitting on your bench, I think he's a great flex play. For the last 3 weeks, okay, in half-point PPR scoring, James White has scored 38.1 points, okay? And he's broken it down like this: 13.6 in Week 1, 11.9 in Week 2, and 12.6 in Week 3, with a bunch of garbage time rushing yards at the end. The way I see it, I think James White is going to continue to be relevant within this offense, and I like him going into Week 4. That's why he's one of my starts of the week, and that's James White. So let's talk about David Johnson, a guy who I was asked last week many times, probably more times than I would have liked. Should I start David Johnson this week? Can I trust him, etc., etc.? I think David Johnson, I even called it last week. I'm going to gloat a little bit, all right? There's been some calls that I've made that are awful, okay? I said everyone should start Latavius Murray. Guess what? Latavius Murray had 1 rushing yard off 2 carries, I can't control that, but I thought he was going to be good. But what I did call last week was, I even said it, I think it was in my quarterbacks video, that Tyrod Taylor, I'm waiting for him to be replaced. What happened? He got replaced. All the fantasy talent around Baker Mayfield was relevant, right? Carlos Hyde. David Njoku actually looked decent. Jarvis Landry was good. And Antonio Callaway is starting to get, a little bit more production, more opportunity within the offense. The way I see it, and I also called it with Josh Rosen, right? I even said it. I said Sam Bradford needs to be replaced so that David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, Ricky Seals-Jones can all be relevant. It happened, right? Literally within 5 days of that video, both of those things happened, and you guys are all welcome, okay? I think David Johnson going forward is going to be more relevant with Josh Rosen. I think with a young rookie quarterback, there has to be opportunity to throw the ball to the flat, right? A quarterback needs his check down, whether that's the tight end position or whether that's David Johnson. I think David Johnson needs to see the ball more in order for this Cardinals team to stop losing games. Honestly, that's what it comes down to. They're 0-3 right now. They're desperate, and I think Josh Rosen gives them the best opportunity, and I think, to be honest, fantasy-wise, he's gonna be decent enough to make David Johnson relevant again. I think that the team in Arizona, it's really not that bad. Okay, they've just they've been all right the last couple weeks. David Johnson, on the other hand, has been terrible, right? We all know that. This past week, he caught a touchdown. No big deal. I think going forward, he's going to be that PPR monster. And I think this week, he has a great opportunity to have a good week. I mean, they play against the Seahawks, who, all things considered, they're not a great defense, right? The reason the Dallas Cowboys got completely torched is because Dak can't move the ball. I like David Johnson this week. He's one of my starts of the week. Okay? My last two starts of the week, Chris Carson and Marshawn Lynch. All right, so let's talk about the Seahawks while we're at it, right? Chris Carson had himself quite the week, right? He was on yesterday's video. I talked about him when it comes to waiver wire. I talked about him when it comes to being one of the top 10 running backs of week 3. Chris Carson last week had 32 rushing attempts for 102 yards. Now, all things considered, that's really not great. That's like what? That's 3.3 yards per carry. That's not great. You know, when you hand a man the ball 30 times, you expect at least 4 yards a carry. But, you know, obviously, it happens. No big deal. I think Chris Carson this coming week is going to be relevant because they're going to feed him the ball again. They're playing against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Arizona Cardinals are not the best defense in the NFL. The last 3 weeks, the Arizona Cardinals have been worked by every running back that they've played against. In week 1, Adrian Peterson and Chris Thompson absolutely scorched them. Okay, who do they play in week 2? Oh man, my short-term memory really got me messed up here. Who do they play in week 2? Where are we at here? Where are the Cardinals? The Rams. What a surprise. Todd Gurley had 3 rushing touchdowns, right? In week 3, Jordan Howard had 16 fantasy points. Looked pretty good. Had a rushing touchdown. Had about 70 rushing yards. Tariq Cohen even looked great against the Cardinals defense. I think this coming week, Chris Carson, as soon as you pick him up off waivers, if you need a flex start, he is a good pickup and play, especially if you're hurting with injuries. Devontae Freeman, Joe Mixon, LaShawn McCoy. This is a guy that you can go ahead. You can start him this week. I think he can have good production because of his opportunity going forward. So, my last start of the week I wanted to mention, he was on the thumbnail, but he was wearing a different jersey. No big deal. It's Marshawn Lynch, a guy who has been absolutely lights out the last couple weeks. No matter, standard PPR, Marshawn Lynch, he produces, right? And you cannot deny that. Marshawn Lynch, these past 3 weeks, has scored a touchdown every single week. They're going to continue to feed this man the ball. And hopefully, right, the plan is maybe you get him a couple receptions here and there. I understand that he's an older running back. They're trying to keep him. But when you're 0-3, okay, you have to begin to think, all right, we're going to have to win some games here. Maybe we should keep our best player in despite us trying to throw the ball more. I think Marshawn Lynch going forward, especially this coming week against the Cleveland Browns, who, all things considered, they got torched last week on the ground by Isaiah Crowell and Bilal Powell. That tandem absolutely had, over 100 yards rushing combined, 2 rushing touchdowns. They played well against the Cleveland the run-stopping defense. And I think that, with the Raiders' offensive line, Kelechi Osemele, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Donald Penn, they can get after it with the rookie left tackle. I forget his name. They're going to get after it, and they're going to feed Marshawn the ball. And I like him this week as a week 4 start. Now, let's talk about the sits, okay? These are guys that you should just stop. I mean, it's hot potato, and you've been holding the potato for way too long, and you've got third-degree burns. And honestly, you might have to go to the hospital soon, okay? So maybe you should just let go of these guys and let them go on the waiver. Because to be honest, these guys are garbage cans. And there is nothing to tell me that can change anything going forward, okay? So number 1, we're going to talk about Peyton Barber, a guy within an offense that just really hasn't looked great, right? I mean, he himself, I honestly, prior to the season, I didn't think Peyton Barber was going to even be the starter. I honestly thought the kid out of USC, what's his name? Ronald Jones was going to be the starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's why I thought they drafted him, right? You go and you draft a kid in order to give him an opportunity, but he hasn't played in the last 3 weeks. Peyton Barber, though, for the last 3 weeks, in half-point PPR, has only scored 13.6 fantasy points, right? His best week being week 1, in which he had 69 rushing yards, right? And that was literally it. That's all he had. These last 2 weeks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to throw the ball all season long. As long as Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback there, and even with Jameis, all things considered, I think they're never going to run the ball. They've got a good offensive line, but they can't. They cannot run the ball. Whether it's them being down 20 points or them being up 20 points, they're not going to run the ball. I think Peyton Barber he needs to be sat and maybe even dropped off of your team. I don't like him this week. Obviously, his production from the last couple of weeks. I mean, he had 8 rushing attempts last night. They used Jaquiz Rodgers more last night because they used him in the passing game. The way I see it, I don't like Peyton Barber going forward, especially coming into this Bears matchup, playing against Khalil Mack in that absolutely lights-out defense. I would be scared to start Peyton Barber, leave him on your bench, and or drop him. My second sit of the week, we're going to talk about Duke Johnson, a guy just like Peyton Barber, hasn't been what people thought. Duke Johnson last season in full point PPR was a top 12 running back. Okay, now imagine you've gone from the status of being a really good, vital piece of fantasy teams to being a guy that people can't start you anymore. Why? Because the Cleveland Browns aren't as bad, right? When their defense has picked up the pace, they've got young, active talent out there, right? People aren't going to score 40 on you, and they're not going to force you to have to come back every game because DeShone Kizer is turning over the ball 3 times a game, right? Duke Johnson is not being given the opportunity because there really is just more talent within this roster. Jarvis Landry, Antonio Callaway, Rashad Higgins, right? Duke Johnson, yes, he's going to try to compete in that passing game, but then there's Carlos Hyde and there's Nick Chubb that can potentially take away, and David Njoku. There's a lot of talent within this team, especially at the running back position, which Carlos Hyde can do everything. He proved it last year in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think Duke Johnson going forward needs to be a sit, and he's going to definitely be a sit for me going into week 4. My last 2 sits of the week, Rex Burkhead, who I mentioned before, and Theo Riddick. Now let's get into Rex Burkhead really quickly. A guy who everyone thought, he's going to be the starting running back of this New England Patriots offense. They're not going to give everything away to Sony Michel. It's impossible, etc., etc. For the last 3 weeks, Rex Burkhead has not been healthy, and he has not been able to produce at all. Okay, week 1 had 18 rushing attempts, for 64 yards. Okay, all things considered, he looked decent. Okay, but then in week 2, was a little banged up, only had 6 rushing attempts. Boom, trash, right? And then in week 3, had 0 rushing attempts. This guy has fallen off the bandwagon, or not. I mean, I guess, is it a bandwagon, or is it just a wagon that's about to just head off the cliff? Either way, Rex Burkhead this coming week, obviously his injury is going to hold him out. But going forward, I think Rex Burkhead is a guy that you have to be very, very careful with, especially with James White, in my opinion, taking over this backfield fantasy-wise. Rex Burkhead is not a guy that you should completely cut, but I think going forward, he's going to have to sit on your bench for a little while until we can figure out what he's actually capable of doing in fantasy. And my last sit of the week, Theo Riddick, a guy who only touched the ball 3 times on Sunday Night Football versus the Patriots. A guy that, all things considered, was a main target within this offense until Kieran Johnson wanted to have a week to remember, right? A guy, I think Theo Riddick can be useful, right? In weeks 1 and 2, he was fine, right? PPR wise, this guy had enough receptions to make you happy, right? I think if I'm not mistaken, he has at least 6 to 8 targets a week. That's a consistent thing. Let's see. In week 1, okay, he had 7 targets. That's great. In week 2, he had 9 targets, right? Because they were down in the game. In week 3, only had 3 targets. I think it had to do with the pacing of the game, and I think as soon as the Detroit Lions got ahead, they thought, okay, put in Kieran Johnson, put in LeGarrette Blount, let them just run over this defense, and that's what they did. I think going into this coming week against the Dallas Cowboys, it's going to be the same thing. Dallas Cowboys cannot play offense. They're not going to score points. Matthew Stafford is way too talented. They're going to put a lot of points on these guys, and Theo Riddick is not going to be relevant for a flex position. He's a sit for this coming week, for week 4 of the regular season. Now, without further ado, let's get into my rankings, shall we? Okay, everybody. How long have we been doing? Okay, we got some time. So let's try to break it down as easily as I possibly can without, completely talking for an hour. Alvin Kamara, my number one, going into week 4 of the regular season. It's pretty simple. Alvin Kamara has just been an absolute animal in fantasy football, and I don't think anybody can stop him. I think the only one who is going to be able to stop him is Mark Ingram. And I can put money down on it. Mark Ingram is going to steal attempts away from this guy, and it's going to hurt many of you fantasy owners who think Alvin Kamara can continue this pace going forward. I understand that his receptions are not going to be tampered with, but there are going to be a lot of goal line carries. There are going to be a lot of opportunities taken away because Mark Ingram is really he's not terrible in the passing game. He's a guy that can go out there, he can catch the ball. Last season, he had all-time highs in rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, attempts, and even receiving yards, right? And receptions. He had an all-time high last season with Alvin Kamara sitting behind him. I think as soon as Mark Ingram comes back, he's going to be, pretty relevant. But going forward, this will be the last week without Mark Ingram. So Alvin Kamara, it's your last week, so you're number one against the New York Giants defense, who, all things considered, is not the best, especially when the Saints are on fire. Okay, number 2, Todd Gurley going against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. Honestly, the matchup doesn't frighten me at all. The Vikings last week proved to everyone that they don't have to show up on Sunday. It's possible that they don't, but obviously they're going to be a little pissed off. They're going to be a little ticked off. I don't think it's going to affect Todd Gurley that much. I think he's way too talented behind this offensive line. He's going to have his opportunities. He's my number 2 running back this coming week. Number 3, a guy that I thought about putting in number 2, Melvin Gordon, playing against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers, without Jimmy Garoppolo going forward, they're going to have a tough time scoring the football, and I think that is going to put their defense on the field way more than it has to be, and that is going to give opposing offensive coordinators and quarterbacks and running backs and receivers a lot of opportunity to score. I like Melvin Gordon, and I like all the Chargers this coming week against this matchup of the 49ers. All systems go. Fire up Melvin Gordon. Number 4, Saquon Barkley. Every week continues to outdo himself, continues to prove why those thighs are so giant. The guy is literally pulling the Giants on his back. They put those little weight training things on his ankles for a little bit. Now they just completely hooked him on with the entire New York Giants team, and he's just pulling them away. This coming week, playing against the Saints defense, who all things considered has not been great. I think the Giants have a good opportunity this week to be able to score some points, and I think Saquon is going to be able to act upon opportunity and be a great, vital part of this offense and be fantasy relevant as he has been all season long. He's my number 4. Number 5, Ezekiel Elliott. Thing I wanted to mention real quick. Ezekiel Elliott has not been great, okay? He has scored 15-plus fantasy points every week, right? Let's not get confused all of a sudden. Let's see. In half-point PPR, Ezekiel Elliott has produced, and I quote, 16.10, 17.2, okay, and then 13.3. If that fumble, you thought I was going to say another word, right? If that fumble didn't occur, he'd have 15 points, maybe even more, because that offensive drive looked like Ezekiel Elliott was bumbling to the end zone, right? And he had that reception. I think it was like a 30-yard reception for a touchdown called back because he stepped out of bounds accidentally before he had received the ball. Anyway, Ezekiel Elliott has still been relevant, okay? This coming week, played against the Detroit Lions defense, okay? Now, I said it last week. Sony Michel is going to blow up. That defense is terrible. The Patriots are terrible, okay? I'm sorry. They did not play well. I don't think that the Dallas offensive line is capable of being that bad. Ezekiel Elliott is a prime-time player. He's my number 5 running back this week. I think all things considered, do not give up on him. I understand the offense is bad, but Ezekiel Elliott is going to continue to be a good running back. He had 127 rushing yards against the Seattle Seahawks, only on 16 carries. They need to give him the ball more. 16 carries. I understand that they're trying to preserve him, but when you have yet to, what are they, 1-2? They're 1-2, right? They beat the Giants. Big deal, right? When you're 1-2, stop conserving your running back because he's the only piece that is successful within this team. You need to use him more. You need to find more ways to feed him the ball. Stop giving the damn ball to Tavon Austin on the goal line. God, that's embarrassing. All right, number 6, Kareem Hunt. If you're associated with the Kansas City offense, and anyway, if you're on the roster, congratulations, you have a potential of scoring a touchdown this coming week. It's how it works. It is literally how it works. Patrick Mahomes is extremely deadly. And, I mean, who's going to be able to stop him? Like, honestly, they play against the Broncos. Okay, great. Patrick Mahomes last season in Week 17, when they sat all the Chiefs starters, was able to beat the Denver Broncos starters last week in Week 17. I think Case Keenum, he'll be able to score some points, but they're not going to be able to keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs. Doesn't matter if it's in Denver. I think Kareem Hunt's going to have a good week this coming week because he's associated with such a good offense. They'll find him opportunities to be good, just like he was last week. He's my number 6. Number 7, Jordan Howard, moving up the ranks as the weeks go on, playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, who didn't look great, especially to the run game. James Conner had himself a pretty good fourth quarter there, was able to pick up some pretty efficient yards. I think, obviously James Conner, we're not even talking about James Conner, but the point is, like, they need to probably feed him the ball a little bit more, but we'll get to that. Anyway, Jordan Howard, as of, this season, the first 3 weeks thus far, has been good. He's probably the only good option within that Bears offense. Trubisky looks terrible. Allen Robinson disappears some weeks. Some weeks he has 15 targets. Trey Burton was, invisible in week 1. Okay? Couldn't catch a damn ball because they weren't throwing him the ball. And then all of a sudden starts to get more into the offense, starts to make more, happen. The way I see it, Jordan Howard, he is the only shining light within this offense fantasy-wise. He's going to continue to be good. I like the matchup this week against Tampa Bay. And I think he's going to be good. I mean, number 7, there it is. David Johnson, my number 8, one of my starts of the week. Again, I told you before, Ezekiel Elliott was able to put up, 127 total rushing yards. Imagine what David Johnson is going to be able to do. I think that the running back position against the Seattle Seahawks is going to be decent. I think David Johnson with Josh Rosen, as I mentioned before, is going to be relevant. Start him up, people. Do not ask me if you should start him. Please, he is going to be good. Number 9, James Conner. As I was saying before, James Conner is not going to be Le'Veon Bell. Okay, we all know that, right? Le'Veon Bell has that dynamic play style where he's going to protect himself while he plays patiently, and he's going to be able to catch the ball like the best receiver on the Steelers, who might, honestly, the best receiver on the Steelers might be Juju Smith. Let's be honest, okay? 19 targets. Anyway, James Conner, going forward, still going to be a relevant piece. He's going to find his way into the end zone. He is the goal line running back for this team. And I think as long as he continues to get his opportunities, he's going to be fantasy relevant. I like him coming into this matchup versus the Ravens. I think the Ravens defense, it has shown itself to be, weak in some spots, okay? And I think if anyone's going to be able to do it, and, what's the wording? I don't know what the wording is. I've completely lost myself. Either way, if anyone's going to be able to find the chink in the armor and find their weakness, it's a division rival like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like James Conner this week at number 9. Number 10, Leonard Fournette. Let's hope that Leonard Fournette is healthy this week, shall we? Perhaps you won't have to worry on Sunday morning on whether this guy's leg is going to be dead or whether he's going to play or not. Hopefully he's healthy this week. If he is, which I'm assuming he's going to be, playing against the Jets this coming week, which Carlos Hyde absolutely annihilated last week, I think he's my number 10 running back. I think he's going to have a snap count, but I still think he's going to be pretty efficient this coming week. Number 11, Giovanni Bernard, a guy who absolutely showed us why. I told you why to pick him up, and I didn't expect him to be that good. I thought he was going to be great, but I didn't think he was going to be that good. Who needs Joe Mixon, right? I don't know. Anyway, Giovanni Bernard looked good. All systems go as long as he plays. I don't know what Joe Mixon's looking like. I heard a report he could play this week. I doubt it. We'll see. And that's number 11. Number 12, Carlos Hyde. As I mentioned before, like 6 times, he looked great, right? As soon as that Baker Mayfield offense started moving the ball, it gave more opportunities for the offensive line and for Carlos Hyde to make some plays. They looked good. I like him this coming week versus, if I'm not mistaken, the Browns play the Raiders. Okay, the Raiders, I think it'll be good. I like Carlos Hyde in this matchup. Number 13, Lamar Miller, a guy that I forgot to put in the video last week because, honestly, sometimes Lamar Miller just doesn't show up. Okay, let's be real. Lamar Miller, has he even found the end zone this year? I'm gonna be a little worried right now. If I was a Lamar Miller owner, I'd be a little worried. Oh, he doesn't have any rushing touchdowns. Oh my God, what happened? Oh man. Oh, Lamar, he had 10 rushing yards last week. He was still fantasy relevant because of the passing game, but guys, I like him this week, okay? He's playing against the Colts. Now, let's be real. The Colts front seven is nothing to fuck around with, all right? I dropped the F word, but it is what it is. Do not take that Colts front seven lightly. Marcus Hunt, is that what his name is? No, that's... Who is that? I don't even know. Let's find it. There's a 6'7" defensive tackle. I think it's Marcus Hunt, right? Let me look this up. He used to play for SMU in college. He used to be like a shot putter. Yeah, Marcus Hunt. Dude, this guy is an absolute monster. He is controlling the line of scrimmage and just bull rushing centers and guards into the backfield and just making every play. Anyway, this coming week, Lamar Miller, let's just hope he's relevant. If he's not, don't be surprised. Just saying, okay? I even considered him to be a sit of the week. I don't know. I don't like Lamar Miller. I just don't think that this Texans team is good enough to play with Lamar Miller. The way I see it, they're always behind early in the game. That forces Deshaun Watson to throw the ball later. Lamar Miller was still relevant in the passing game, but if he's not able to get those extra yards from the running game, it's going to hurt him here and there, and it's eventually going to be the downfall of Lamar Miller. But anyway, he's in RB2. All things considered, he is. So either way, he's my number 14. Number 15, one of my starts of the week, again, Marshawn Lynch. He's going to be a stud, as I mentioned before. I don't have to say anything else. He plays against the Browns defense, right? Number 16, okay, Matt Breida. Let's preface this. Matt Breida, I honestly thought, in my opinion, on Sunday, when I watched him have that little knee tweak, I thought he tore his ACL. I was crying already. I was like, all right, the season's over. I'm going to pack up my bags. I'm done, right? In multiple leagues. Because Matt Breida, I have him everywhere. Anyway, the way I see it, I think that's what they said. He had a hyperextended knee. He was able to go out of the game and come back and play and still be able to produce. He'll be fine this week. I like him as, honestly, the only option. And what a couple people were pointing out was that C.J. Beathard last season, when he played, liked throwing the ball to the running back position majority of the time to Carlos Hyde last year. I like Matt Breida this coming week against the Chargers defense, who's not great. Number 17. All right, people, relax. Okay, do not sound the alarms. All right, I have not been held hostage to put Kenyon Drake on this list. I understand he played like dog shit this last week. I understand. I 100% am aware. Okay, the guy had 10 touches for like 10 yards. Some incredibly bad number. Let's find it, shall we? So we can laugh and have perhaps a moment of silence for him. All right, Dolphins. All right, here we go. Kenyon Drake had 5 rushes for 3 yards. Good job. And he also had 2 receptions for 7 yards. All things considered, 7 touches for 10 yards. Okay, let's go ahead and have a moment of silence real quick. All right, thank you. So now that we've had that moment of silence and we've gotten, our anger out from Kenyon Drake, I think this coming week he can still, let's think about it. If the Lions could have their first 100-yard rusher for the first time in 40 years, okay, please tell me Kenyon Drake can't do the same. Kenyon Drake is capable. I promise you he's capable. And we know that this New England Patriots defense is suspect. We know it. Okay, we've known it since the Super Bowl. We've known it since the last year when they got blown out in the first game of the season versus the Chiefs. We've known it for a while, okay? All I'm saying is that Kenyon Drake is capable. He has a good opportunity as long as they hand him the ball. Anyway, Kenyon Drake, for your consideration. All right, let's go with my last couple guys here, okay? We're going to go a little quicker, okay, because I can't be here all day. And I know you guys want to watch more, but tough luck. I'm just kidding. Anyway, number 18. All right, the way I see it, one of the Eagles running back is going to be a good running back this week, right? He's going to be efficient. Now, which one is it going to be, Andrew? I'm not sure right now. Is J.J. healthy? Is Clement healthy? Is Smallwood going to be the only running back healthy? I don't know. All things considered, I think as long as if J.J. is healthy and playing, he's up here, right? If Clement is healthy and playing and Jai is out, he's up here. If Smallwood's the only one healthy, right, and those two are out, he's up here. So with whatever happens, just as long as one is available, and that's what you want. You only want one available. They're going to be relevant. If all three of them are active, not good. Not good at all. We'll go into that, but you can ask questions later on in the week. Number 19, Dion Lewis. I did mention it in my Saturday injury video, right? That Derrick Henry likes to be used a lot versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did that a lot last season in the 2 times that they faced them in the regular season, right? This coming week, they don't have to play the Jaguars, bless their souls, even though they somehow managed to beat the Jaguars. I don't understand how. But they get to play the extremely difficult defensive line of the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, they're at home. The Titans will have that home field advantage, but I think Dion Lewis is going to be used more. Mariota's got to play, right? And when he does play, he's going to have to find Dion Lewis in the passing game. It's going to be pretty difficult for them, but I like Dion Lewis this coming week. Number 20, Alex Collins. I understand, okay? A lot of you are believers of the Javoris Allen train. I'm not going to get off the Alex Collins train. Javoris Allen will eventually disappear, and if he doesn't, it is what it is. I'm going to have to, sit in the bed that I make. But I like Alex Collins going forward, playing against Pittsburgh defense. I think no matter what defense they play, they've got a good enough offensive line, and a good enough scheme to have, Alex Collins in a decent scenario that's going to get him into the end zone, or at least give him enough yards to be fantasy relevant. I like Alex Collins. Number 21, my next start of the week, James White. I got him up here, people. I am 100%. After I saw the way that Sony Michel and Burkhead performed this past week, I'm done with both of them. For the time being, I don't know if I can trust them. I don't know if I can trust this offense, but if I know one thing, it's that I can trust James White going forward. I like him this coming week. He's my number 21. Number 22, Royce Freeman. Okay, now let's get this straight real quick, because when you talk about Royce Freeman, you kind of have to mention Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay was a dumbass last week. Good job throwing that punch. You really did everyone a favor in fantasy football. You really did some favors. Okay, we appreciate that. Not only did you do that, perhaps Phillip Lindsay, you have lost yourself trust within the coaching staff. Perhaps there is an opportunity that they don't give you the ball as much this coming week because they can't trust you, because you're a loose cannon, right? Perhaps Royce Freeman finally gets that full opportunity, that full workload. I like him this coming week. I mean, who they play against? That's right, they play against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he'll have a good week. They just need to give him the ball and ignore Phillip Lindsay, but I don't know if they'll be able to do that considering how good Phillip Lindsay is. All right, number 23, my next start of the week, Chris Carson, playing against the Cardinals defense. As I mentioned before, has a great opportunity, but if he's going to average 3.3 yards a carry, we're going to have trouble. So I think he is a good option in a flex position, but other than that, be careful. Number 24, Kieran Johnson. Again, another one of these running backs that I told you to pick up yesterday, a guy that had a great game, okay? But I'm a little worried that if they continue to use LeGarrette Blount, perhaps even use him on the goal line, it is going to hurt Kieran Johnson's value. But this coming week, I think, against a Dallas Cowboys defense is decent, but their offense is not going to put up any points. They're going to have to run the ball. They're going to set a tempo with Kieran Johnson, and I like him this coming week. Number 25, Austin Eckler. You're playing against the 49ers. Austin Eckler is going to be relevant no matter what, because he has shown that he is a vital part of this offense. They don't need a tight end like Hunter Henry. They just got, Austin Eckler running around making plays. He's that guy that stepped up this season so far. Javoris Allen's my number 26. I can't ignore him, okay? If you're going to put up double-digit fantasy points, you're going to score 2 touchdowns, I can't ignore you. You're going to be on the list. You're number 26, but I don't like it, okay? I'll let you know right now. I don't like it, people, all right? Number 27, Aaron Jones. I think he's probably the most capable running back out of that backfield. But then again, who wants to own a Packers running back? We all know what they want to do. They want to throw the damn ball down the field, right? But with Aaron Rodgers hurt, they're going to have to run the ball just to keep the ball out of his hands. I like Aaron Jones going forward. Jamal Williams is a bum. And Ty Montgomery will be used here and there, sprinkles here and there. But otherwise, Aaron Jones. Number 28, I got Derrick Henry this coming week playing against that Eagles defense. I think they're going to have to continue to run the ball. And I think because of the fact that Mariota is still not fully healthy, they're going to have to run the ball a lot. So I think Derrick Henry is going to have his opportunities. He's going to be decent. But, both these running backs are going to get their fair shot this coming week. They're going to get a pretty full workload respectively. Now, number 29, I have Latavius Murray. Now, I understand he killed many of you last week, but he still has potential this coming week if Dalvin Cook does not play. That is all I'm going to say. I don't want to talk about him anymore. I talked about him enough last week, okay? Phillip Lindsay, I talked about him already. Perhaps he is, I don't know. Maybe he ends up, still getting 10 touches this coming week, but I'm just a little worried. Perhaps maybe the coaching staff is a little pissed off at him, okay? Maybe he could have helped them win a game this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. Number 31, Chris Ivory. If LaShawn McCoy is out, he's the next best, right? Number 32, Bilal Powell. When they're playing the Jacksonville defense, I think he's going to be relevant because of the fact that this Jacksonville team is going to be pissed. And they're going to not be really happy with themselves considering they lost the game to a Blaine Gabbert-Mariota combination that was completely just injured the entire game. And honestly, I think they completed, 10 passes that entire game? Embarrassing. Anyway, Bilal Powell's 32. Number 33, Sony Michel. He's got to be up here. Why? Because I still have hope that perhaps maybe someday he'll figure it out. But they're going to have to hand somebody the ball. Hopefully it's James White, but worst case scenario, it's Michel. And number 34, Isaiah Crowell. Okay, look, I understand. If he is a goal line back, he's going to have value. Here you go. He's number 34. I would probably also consider guys like Alfred Morris this week as a 34. Another guy that has goal line attempts and opportunities this coming week. Other than those two kind of guys, that's pretty much it. Below me right here, it says LaShawn McCoy, Devontae Freeman, and Marlon Mack and Joe Mixon. I'm trying to read it at the same time. If these four guys end up playing this week, I'll update you as the week goes on. But other than that, I'm assuming that they're all going to be out. Plain and simple, which sucks, right? But it is what it is. It's just like McCaffrey and Thompson and AP this coming week. Just imagine they're on a bye week, but they're actually injured. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If you haven't already, please go down, subscribe. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit the comment section. I'm going to be legit right now. You ready? If you do not put what kind of scoring format, standard, half-point PPR, or full-point PPR, I'm not answering your question, okay? The ranking should just do you enough. But if you do not supply me with it, I'm not going to answer your question, okay? And if you haven't made it this far, then no comment. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. And until tomorrow, I think we're doing wide receivers tomorrow. Yes, we are. Until next time, thank you everybody for watching, and see you.